Yise finds a purple-haired horned woman watching over him, and in that moment he understands one thing at least: he survived, but not because anyone from home saved him. Yise needs answers fast, and Mongryeon gives them without trying to make any of this gentler. She wakes him, introduces herself, and openly admits she saved him without asking, making it clear he can resent that later if he wants. Mongryeon says, "I'm Mongryeon, a demon hunter." Hearing that drags the worst of it back into his mind in broken flashes of purple fire and wreckage. When Yise realizes even his family's graves may have been destroyed, survival stops feeling like relief and starts feeling like proof that the nightmare was real. That shock makes him look at himself more closely, and the impossible part hits him right away: not even a single burn scar remains. So when Mongryeon admits she is a Dakibi, Yise does not recoil. He thanks her for treating him kindly, and that answer shifts the entire mood between them. Mongryeon is clearly struck by how little fear he shows. Once she confirms his name as Yise, she stops circling the subject and brings the conversation back to the offer she made earlier: whether he has truly thought about following her and learning demon exorcising arts. Now that the question is on the table, Mongryeon's offer comes out blunt and enormous. She tells Yise he has talent, promises him a place to stay until he can stand on his own, and says she will help him grow strong enough to take revenge on demons, but she also adds the harder truth that Dakibi territory is filled with demonic energy and is no safe place for a human. Mongryeon says, "You'll live from now on in Dakibi territory." She makes sure he understands the cost too, warning that her teaching will be brutal. Yise does not flinch, because from his point of view anything less would never be enough to exterminate demons, and that answer convinces Mongryeon that his resolve is real. Instead of pushing him further, she decides his body has to recover before anything else. Mongryeon says, "Rough enough that every day will feel like hell." So Yise's first lesson under her is not some hidden technique at all. Mongryeon sets down a steaming meal, orders him to leave nothing behind, and he quietly starts eating because he can already tell this matters just as much as any future training. Once he is strong enough to move, Mongryeon takes him toward the place where he will live, and the trip feels wrong before Yise can even explain why. When he says the area around them has grown eerie, she tells him the space is saturated with demonic energy and warns him not to step outside the sacred rope, because with his current strength he might not be able to return. Mongryeon says, "This space is filled with demonic energy." That warning finally becomes concrete when they reach a massive gate. Mongryeon tells him plainly that beyond it lies Dakibi territory, where he will now reside, and the weight of that sinks in fast because the signs openly warn humans to turn back. Stepping forward means there is no easy walk back to ordinary life. Mongryeon says, "Beyond this gate is the territory of the Dakibi." Even at that threshold, Yise worries less about himself than about whether bringing him here will cause trouble for Mongryeon. Her answer completely changes his understanding of her, because when she says no one in Gwizu Temple would be crazy enough to talk back to the head, Yise realizes she is not just his rescuer or teacher. She is the one in charge. That realization leaves him staring ahead in shock, and the view opening up beyond the bleak approach only deepens it. Yise is no longer just following a stranger who saved him, he is walking behind the head of the Dakibi into a hidden world of her own. And what he finds inside is not darkness at all, but a vast temple complex full of stone courtyards, water, trees, rooftops, and distant figures going about their lives. The biggest change here is in Yise's expectations, because Dakibi territory looks organized and living, nothing like the monstrous place human stories would have led him to imagine. Of course, the people at the entrance fixate immediately on the impossible part: a human child has really entered Gwizu Temple. Mongryeon cuts through the alarm at once by announcing that this boy is Yise, that he will learn demon exorcising arts directly under her, and that he is to be treated warmly as one of their own. Mongryeon says he is now a new family member. That settles the matter faster than Yise can process it. The same Dakibi who were just shocked now call the news a good thing, and Yise sees for himself that one word from Mongryeon is enough to turn suspicion into instant acceptance. Once his place here is settled, Mongryeon moves straight to what she considers the real beginning of training. Instead of giving him solemn lessons, She plants him in front of a table piled high with meat, rice, and side dishes, treating that absurd feast like the proper first step on the road to demon hunting. When Yise asks what any of this has to do with demon hunting, Mongryeon gives him a harder answer than he expects. She tells him he has forgotten he is still a child, and if he does not build his body now with food and sleep while he is growing, he will pay for it later when demon hunting becomes real. Mongryeon says, "You've forgotten that you are a child." Yise starts to see her point and accepts that strength has to be built while he is still growing. But just when that idea begins to settle in, someone rushes in with even more meat, and the moment turns almost comical, because revenge on demons suddenly sounds easier than surviving dinner. Dakibi says, "Head. I brought more meat." Once that chaos is at least somewhat under control, Mongryeon steps back into her role as head. She leaves Yise in Gana's care, tells her to arrange a place for him after he finishes eating, and still makes sure to stress that he must finish all of it, which says everything about how her kindness works. With Mongryeon gone, Gana immediately fills the silence with cheerful curiosity. She greets Yise, marvels over the fact that humans really do not have horns, and nearly short-circuits when she learns he is only 10, which turns the mood playful and makes this strange place feel less threatening for the first time. Gana says, "You're more mature than me, and I'm 22. That easy warmth gets even more direct when the adults start calling Yise the new youngest sibling. Gana embraces the role immediately, and the real shift happens inside Yise, because being welcomed this casually is clearly not something he knows how to answer. While Yise is still recovering from the meal, Gana casually fills in everything nobody bothered to explain. She tells him other Dakibi would be jealous of anyone taught directly by the head, and then drops the real shock: Mongryeon has been killing demons for more than 300 years. Gana says, the head is a living legend. By this point, it is getting harder and harder for Yise to see the Dakibi as monsters at all. Looking at them, he can barely find the line between them and humans, and the warmth surrounding him feels stranger than danger ever did because nothing like it existed back in his village. Naturally, that is exactly when the peace gets broken. Gana says, "It's a promise." The interruption turns into Yise's first real problem inside Dakibi territory. A blue-haired Dakibi corners him over entering this place and receiving direct instruction from the busy head, and Gana immediately recognizes how bad the situation is when she identifies them as Ilchui, Wojang, and Gojiel's gang. Blue-haired Dakibi says, "Why don't we have a little talk?" So by the end of the chapter, Yise has done more than find shelter. He has crossed into Guizu Temple, discovered that the Dakibi are far more complicated than the fearful stories humans tell about them, and begun forming bonds he never expected. But Mongryeon's favor has also made him stand out, and his new life is already about to be tested.